Hey guys, today we're looking at Piaget's stages of cognitive development. So what we're looking at is how our thinking changes throughout the course of our lifespan. Before we get into Piaget's stages, we have to talk about two concepts first, assimilation and accommodation. So babies and little kids, but especially babies, experience everything new for the first time. And they kind of have to make sense of these new things that they're experiencing. We've already talked about schemas. It's our frameworks or our categories for things. So assimilation is putting the things that we're experiencing into these categories. So I know that if something has meat and bread and toppings on it, it's a sandwich. On the other hand, accommodation is adding things to those categories. So I know that a hot dog, which is meat between two pieces of bread basically, usually with some toppings on it, mustard or ketchup or relish or whatever, would fit into the category of a sandwich. Now that I've sparked a massive non-psych related debate, let's get into the stages of Piaget's cognitive development. So first up, we have the sensory motor stage. This is ages 0 to 2. And everything's experienced through our senses at this point. So right starting from birth, we're experiencing things through our senses, hearing, tasting, touching, feeling, smelling things for the first time. The key to the sensory motor stage is understanding that babies are lacking something called object permanence, meaning they don't understand that once something's either covered up or hidden, it's still there. So it's how your classic game of Peekaboo works. You guys have object permanence, so you know when I pull the blanket up over my face, I'm still there behind it. I haven't disappeared, but babies don't understand that. That's why they're so amazed by the game of Peekaboo. Next up is the pre-operational stage, which kicks off around ages 2 and continues on through age 7. There's a couple of important features to this stage, a little bit more so than the sensory motor stage. Okay, little kids start during this phase talking more. They're actually using their words. They're starting to go to school. All of that becomes really important in the way that they communicate their understanding of the world around them and they communicate their thinking. So a couple of unique features to their thinking. Little kids in the pre-operational stage are egocentric. I don't mean that in the way that, most people say that they think the world revolves around someone because they have a massive ego. I mean this in the way that they literally can't see the world from anyone else's point of view. If you would ask me at age 2, do you have any siblings? I would say yes, a brother, John. Probably not that articulate, but I would say something along those lines. But if you had asked me, okay, so does John have a sister? I wouldn't have been able to answer that question because I can't think from his point of view, even though his sister is me. The other thing that's involved in the pre-operational stage is symbolic play. Okay, this is where you see little kids having imaginary friends, and it's also tied to the idea of animism, giving inanimate objects human emotions, feelings, behavior, and stuff like that. So my little dog toy here, I would say that he has feelings and he can feel me pet him and he loves me and he's giving me kisses or whatever. The real big key, though, to the pre-operational stage is that children in the pre-operational stage don't understand something called conservation. The idea that things stay the same even if they've changed a little bit. So think back to like the sensation and perception unit with the constancy. Little kids don't get that so much. So there's 2 tests of conservation that I want to show you that you can try out if you happen to be stuck in lockdown with some little kids, but do not make anyone cry. So the 2 tests I want to show you are 2 pretty common ones, and I think they're also included in the video that I linked for today. So the first one, you and I both know that these 2 glasses of water, and a little kid would know that these 2 glasses of water have the same amount of liquid in them. I know I'm holding them kind of funny, but they do have the same amount of water in them. So they would say, okay, both glasses have the same amount of water. Now, if I take one of the glasses and pour it into a taller glass, okay, and then compare them, the little kid would be confused and say, well, this glass is taller, so it has more water in it than this glass. And then when I put it down, when I pour it back in, they would think I've done some sort of weird magic trick because now the glasses have the same amount of water in them again. They don't understand that just because this second glass was taller, it holds more water. The other thing you can do, and this one a lot of parents do to trick their kids around dessert time, I have 2 graham crackers here. Okay, if a kid was like, well, you know, I want 2 graham crackers, I could say, oh, okay. Oh, now it's 4. Here's your 4 graham crackers. It accidentally broke, but here's 4 graham crackers. You were really good today. And then I hand this one to the kid's sibling. Kid's sibling would be very, very jealous because they only got 1 graham cracker and he got 4. How come he got 4? So that's something that you can try. And there's a couple of other tests, both in the PowerPoint and in the video that I linked you to. Okay, the next stage is the concrete operational stage from ages 7 to 11. In this stage, kids do master conservation, so the trick's not going to work as well with a 7-year-old as it would with a 5-year-old or a 2-year-old. They've established logical reasoning, which means that they can kind of come up with multiple solutions to a problem. They can see different ways around a problem. They're able to reverse the steps in the order of something. So if I ask them, you know, what are the steps to bake a cake, they can tell me first you open up the box mix and then you put it in a bowl and whatever, and eventually down to like baking the cake and taking it out of the oven and frosting it. If I asked a kid in the pre-operational in that 2 to 7 age range how to make a cake but in reverse, they wouldn't be able to tell me. But in the ages of 7 to 11, you'd be able to say, okay, well, the last thing you do is put the frosting on, and before you did that, you had to take the cake out of the oven and let it cool. The big thing in the concrete operational stage is they have mastered conservation, but they kind of lose everything else. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Inside Out, well, yes, Riley does master conservation. She does lose her imaginary friend, Bing Bong, very tragically, in the, deletion portion of her memory. If you haven't seen Inside Out, highly recommend. The last phase here, and sorry if I spoiled it for anyone, the last stage here is the formal operational stage, which usually happens age 12 or older. This is the abstract thinking, the what would happen if hypotheticals. What would happen if there was, no more fish in the ocean? What would happen if we created a colony on Mars? And kids in that stage would be able to think abstractly. This is when in school, a lot of times your math starts getting more complicated. They start taking numbers out and adding in letters. So how do you remember all this? If you can see on the board behind me, hopefully you can kind of see it. I have a little mnemonic device for you. So it's sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete, formal operational. So I have some people conserve fuel. I threw the conserve in there because that's kind of where conservation starts to happen, is in that concrete operational stage. So some people conserve fuel. Those are your stages for Piaget. Do your reading, answer your questions on College Board, and I'll see you tomorrow.